How's it going, everybody? This is the Nitty Gritty. My name is Chad. With me is Leonard. This is a show about wrestling. And if you've ever joined us before, we occasionally do a show called Fever Dreams, which began as Fever Dream matches. And a little background on that. Basically, it's randomized dream matches that we debate. And that started with a post on Facebook where there were 4 faces of random wrestlers. Leonard and I talked about it via text and debated on who would win. And from there grew the idea for one of the themes of this show, which is Fever Dream matches. So that is what we're going to do. We have a random name generator site, and we have inputted various lists into that site, which are male talent, female talent, gimmick matches, random belts, stables, tag teams, managers, etc. So based on the lineup of the card we dictate, we will discuss the opponents and decide who we think would win. And if this is your first time joining us, we have created a champions of sorts in our little company that we've created. Not Ronda Rousey, excuse me. Shayna Baszler is the female champion. The DX version of Shawn Michaels is our male champion. And on this show, we will crown our tag team champion. We will just call that the Time Infinite Tag Team Belt. That's has a good ring to it. So this particular show, I've decided to call Autumn Assault. Leonard, what do you think of that name?
Oh, I like that. That's a decent name. I may have to steal that for my long-term fantasy booking league that I'm doing.
Absolutely. So we are going to have a bunch of matches, but we're going to start with sort of a semifinals of a tag team tournament. We're going to have 2 different matches, one-on-one, 2 different tag teams. Leonard has generated the names of those tag teams.
Before I say that, I would like to mention from the list that you gave me, it lists a dark match.
Yes. Oh, yes. I forgot. You're right. You're right. There is a dark match. So on the last episode we did, which was Wild Wedding Fever Dreams.
In honor of me getting married.
That's right. We had a wedding that we created, which was Ron Simmons marrying Charlotte Flair, the WCW version of Ron Simmons marrying Charlotte Flair. And the person that interrupted the wedding was the Giant. And therefore, Leonard decided that we should settle this feud in some sort of match. So we have a dark match, which is WCW Ron Simmons versus the Giant and Charlotte Flair in a Charlotte Flair on a pole match with managers. So the managers that will be joining these 2 guys for WCW's Ron Simmons, his manager is Teddy Long.
No, that's rigged.
I swear that is what came up.
Okay.
And for the Giant, he has Mr. Fuji. So, Leonard, who do you think would win a Charlotte Flair on a pole match between the Giant and Ron Simmons?
Point of clarification, is Charlotte Flair on a forklift like Judy Bagwell, or is she actually like hanging off of a pole?
I like to think that they rigged some of it up so she could be on an actual pole.
So she's on an actual, just like setting on top of a pole tied to the ring.
Absolutely.
I shouldn't say this, but I get to like her doing like a stripper number with like her legs wrapped around the pole and going upside down on it. Like she's doing like a dance routine while the match is going on. I don't think anybody would be watching the match.
Not what you want to see in the match, Leonard. Who do you
I know who I think would win in the match. You know what? I actually think that the managers are going to make a difference here because Teddy Long is very used to managing and working with Ron Simmons. Mr. Fuji, I think, could be pretty good with the Giant because the Giant is like maybe a more mobile Yokozuna, and he always got the ceremonial salts, which could be a big thing here. And so basically, if Ron Simmons wins, then he and Charlotte are going to go off and be happily ever after. The Giant wins, then I don't know. He's going to like carry Charlotte in the back over his shoulder. I'm going to say the Giant wins via Mr. Fuji salt in the face of Ron Simmons.
Yeah, I think that this would be a competitive match.
Yes.
And I think that based on the history of Teddy Long and Ron Simmons, I envision Teddy Long, turning on Ron Simmons, similar to how he actually did in the storyline in
Mhm.
WCW. So yeah, I mean, with Mr. Fuji out there as well, and the fact that it is the Giant, I envision the managers being the difference maker in this. So yeah, I would pick the Giant as well. I just think he's that much more powerful than Ron Simmons, and yeah, I think Charlotte though goes with him. Against her will. That's what I see.
Yes.
You had to think about it for a second.
So I had to, yes. It took me a minute to realize that you basically said the same, that you agreed with my outcome. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's the way it goes. So I don't know, maybe down the road we could revisit the storyline to see what became of this.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know what the next match would be, but we'll figure that out.
Possible.
So without further ado, we are going to start our main card. We've
Mhm.
gone from the free for all Leonard to the main card. Unauthorized
Yes.
buyers beware, and it should be noted that this is our 10th Fever Dreams episode.
Oh,
So that's why this card is a little bit longer than they usually are.
sure.
We have a lot of good matches here. So Leonard, take it away. What is the first semifinal round in our tag team tournament? Who do you got?
All right. Now, I took a quick look to see if this had ever happened, and I don't believe it did from my quick Google search, but it could have. I think they were around the same time. So we have Billy and Chuck versus Lance Cade and Trevor Murdock.
Oh wow, okay. That's an interesting pairing.
Mhm.
Hmm. You know, I mean, size wise, this might be easy to determine because Billy and Chuck are certainly bigger and more imposing from just a sight perspective than are Trevor Murdock and Lance Cade. But I never really liked Billy and Chuck as a tag team. I didn't get into it. Like I understood the storyline, what they're doing, and the whole wedding thing with Eric Bischoff was funny and a good clip to go back and revisit. But Billy and Chuck as a tag team, I just didn't like because I thought that Billy Gunn was best with Road Dogg, the New Age Outlaws. So I liked though Trevor Murdock and Lance Cade. I thought that they were a really good tag team. I thought that they were underrated, and I envisioned them getting the win here.
Okay. I agree with you. I think these would be a really evenly matched, pretty evenly matched teams. They're both, I think, had good chemistry when they were together. Yeah, the storyline with Billy and Chuck was a little bit meh, even for the time period, kind of tone deaf. I always liked Cade and Murdock. I thought they were underrated, and I thought they felt kind of old school in a time before that was really where you saw a lot of like retro ideas, something like the Revival. But the
Right.
fact that they were both kind of working like a cowboy gimmick, and you had like the tough, good-looking one, and more of the barroom brawler type. And the thing that really sticks me on Billy and Chuck is the fact that Billy Gunn is a tag team specialist, and I think Chuck Palumbo was underrated. I just think he got stuck with a lot of bad gimmicks and maybe some storylines. But I'm going to agree with you. I prefer Cade and Murdock. I think they were the better team overall. And I just like what they bring to the table more. So I will agree with you that Cade and Murdock can move on.
All right. So Trevor Murdock and Lance Cade are moving on. And now we have our second semifinal tag team match.
Mm-hmm.
And that is going to be between the Midnight Express of Stan Lane and Bobby Eaton against Cody and Dustin Rhodes.
Okay, so is this Cody and Dustin, or is this Gold Dust and Stardust?
No, it's definitely Cody and Dustin as they are in AEW.
Okay. I got to go the Midnight Express very easily here. That is, despite the fact that the Rhodes are brothers and have worked together in the past and have good chemistry with each other, if we're talking current version, you've got an over-the-hill Dustin who can still put on a good match. You can still wrestle, can still put on a good match, but he's over the hill. And you got a Cody that is just, again, I haven't been watching the current product too much. I've been reading up things, and he just seems like his brain is elsewhere. He's got the reality show. He's the judge on this game show. he seems to come in and leave and come in and leave. And the Midnight Express, in my opinion, is the best tag team of all time. My favorite tag team of all time, the Lane Eaton version. Just great chemistry, and we were talking those guys in their absolute prime and focused. I think this could be a really good match. I think this is an excellent match, and I think it's a long match, but I like the Express.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I do think that this would be a great match. In all seriousness, this would be a match that I would love to watch because I think that all the styles would mesh really well. And to comment on Cody Rhodes, that's kind of like almost part of his character at this point, the whole that his mind is elsewhere thing, which leads into like the whole Arn Anderson, Glock pep talk and all that kind of stuff that we've seen on TV recently. But yes, I think this would be a competitive match, but the Midnight Express are one of the most, well-known and best gelled tag teams that there is. So they will be moving on, and that means that Trevor Murdock and Lance Cade will face the Midnight Express in our main event. So we'll get there.
Okay.
And that means that the next match, Leonard, is a women's triple threat #1 contender match.
Okay.
And it's actually, you're only generating 2 names, Leonard, because in our previous Fever Dreams match, we had a fatal 4-way, which Prime Mickie James won. So she is one of the members of this triple threat match. So, Leonard, who are the other 2 that she'll be facing?
Mickie James will be squaring off with Britt Baker and Alundra Blaze. So that would be the WWF version of Medusa.
Wow. That is a really, really tough match to declare a winner in. Let's just talk it out here then. So Alundra Blaze, is a very well-known and, female talent. And this was her name in WWF. She was also Medusa, obviously. And I think, she was a female talent when there was hardly anybody else to work with, except for some of the women in Japan. As great as she was, I do think compared to some of the talent today, she was a little rough around the edges compared to how versatile some of the talent are today. So that would mean it would be Prime Mickie James against Britt Baker. And like those 2 to me are so evenly matched. It's tough. It's tough. Like, I guess part of me wants to give the edge to Mickie James simply because it is Prime Mickie James and she has more of a legacy, and Britt Baker is still carving her legacy. So a very slight edge to Mickie James here for me.
Agree with a lot of what you said. For Alundra Blaze, aka Medusa, I think the Blaze version was her at her absolute peak, at her absolute prime. And again, they had to import talent from Japan,
right,
for her to have some competitive matches. But I think those were good matches. If we had a real time machine and could go get Alundra Blaze and bring her to today, I think you would have some amazing matches. And some of those rough edges that you mentioned, I think, are because she did not have the talent to work with, to work those edges out. I mean, if you can just imagine her having a year's worth of matches with, say, the likes of Charlotte Flair and Rhea Ripley and Shayna Baszler and all these women that, say, WWE has now, how good she would be after working with that.
You're right. You're right about that.
So, but that's a what-if scenario.
Yeah.
So again, Britt Baker versus Mickie James, and you're right. Britt Baker is maybe not even in her prime right now. She could still have a prime to come. She has been, I think, one of the best female wrestlers and underrated female wrestlers within the past year or so. I watched AEW when it first started, and when she first turned heel, she was awful. But she has developed. She's a great heel now, a great worker. But again, Mickie James in her prime, like you said, she's got more of a legacy. And I think James, while Britt Baker, I think, has a ceiling she hasn't reached yet, we know what Mickie James's ceiling was, and that was a really, really high ceiling. She probably was not used to her fullest potential when she was probably at her highest point as a wrestler, even though she got a tremendous push while in TNA. So
Right.
I would agree with you, and I would say it is close. Now, if we talk this 2 to 3 years from now, this could be a lot different. This could be Baker easy, but I'm going to go Mickie James right now with you.
Yep. So that means that on a future episode, it will be Mickie James versus whoever our female champion is at that time, which will be exciting. So, yeah, I mean, and also hats off to Mickie James, who's still winning titles out there right now. So, our next match is a fatal four-way with the men, also a number one contenders match, and also from a previous episode, Leonard and I differed on a match featuring RVD and the Big Boss Man. We each voted for, I believe that was a triple threat match, and it was with Ric Flair. It was Final Run WWE. Ric Flair was a part of it, and neither of us voted for him, but one of us voted for RVD, and one of us voted for Big Boss Man. So here they are in a fatal four-way number one contenders match, and so it'll be RVD versus Big Boss Man versus Jeff Hardy, the drugged out TNA version. Versus the heel version of Owen Hart. So
is this Slammy award winning Owen Hart?
I didn't specify various heel versions of characters. So if you want it to be that version, I fully support it.
It's a slight difference, but I just love him walking around with the two Slammies. I love it. Oh man, this is pretty good. I'm gonna say that it's RVD and Big Boss Man from before.
Yeah.
Versus heel Owen versus drugged out Jeff Hardy.
I should note that it's the WWE version of RVD. Not that matters. He was pretty much the same all throughout his career, but still.
More or less. If this was, I don't know I don't even if straight version Jeff Hardy is even possible. Like sober with it, Jeff Hardy.
There's a version of that on there. I forget what I labeled that one as, but yeah, this one needed to be set apart.
Yeah, definitely. Boss Man I think sticks out here like a sore thumb. Not that he was not a good worker for his size, but he wasn't the style worker that the other three guys that we have here are. So I would say that something would happen to take Boss Man out. Probably Jeff drugged out, strung out, however you want to term it, Jeff.
Oh, you know what I forgot, Leonard? What? I forgot. This is kind of like a twist in this, because in our original list, I did say that this was a gimmick match. Now,
sorry.
I don't know that this is going to matter much, because the gimmick that came up was a taped fist match.
Oh, tape it. No, that helps Boss Man a little bit, I think, because he has the most, power of the punch, I would say.
That's true.
Of all these guys. But what I was about ready to say was I could see Jeff Hardy screwing up something and taking out Boss Man. Like trying to do like a Rana or a flying head scissors and just sending Boss Man to the floor.
You inversion him if he screws up, you inversion Big Boss Man being the victim of it.
The victim of it, yes. to kind of because again, as being the bigger guy, he may not be able to roll with the punches as well as one of the smaller guys. So I would say this comes down to me to WWE version RVD versus heel Owen Hart. That would have been, I think, a fantastic match if we ever could have saw it. Both these guys are just good workers. Owen, I think, is a technical worker that could do aerial stuff. RVD, I think, is an aerial worker that could do tech stuff when pushed, which a guy like Owen Hart would do. So I'm going to say Owen Hart, based on the fact that he, I think, is the best worker in the match and could adapt well to everyone else's style, including drugged out of his mind, screwing up everything left and right, Jeff Hardy.
Yeah. So, I think we both had the same sort of mindset in that drugged out Jeff Hardy does screw up something for someone in this match. Now, who that could be, it could be anybody, really.
Yeah.
I do think that I don't know. If this match were actually to exist, I envision Big Boss Man getting into it with somebody on the outside and losing track maybe of what's going on in the ring. So I agree with you. I think Owen Hart would win this, and not maybe he is the best worker in the match, but maybe not because of that. I envision this being like a quick roll up or even a small package type victory before the other guys know what's going on. So it could be him rolling up drugged out Jeff Hardy, or maybe the ref, similar to the way Eric Bischoff did in that match against Sting. Maybe the ref goes over to Jeff Hardy and says, roll up for the win. Like, like you never know. Maybe that could happen. But I do think that Owen Hart would win this. So he will be our number one contender in a future episode.
Can't wait for it.
Absolutely. So let's see here. Our next match is for the Unified Galaxy All-Weight Women's Championship. Our champion is Shayna Baszler. She defeated Ronda Rousey. So Shayna Baszler will be facing, for the Women's Galaxy All-Weight Championship, she'll be facing Beth Phoenix.
Okay.
One-on-one. And in this match, we will have two run-ins of fictional wrestling characters. And Leonard, you can decide who runs in for who. But we will have Nacho from Nacho Libre. And we will have Jimmy King from Ready to Rumble running in. So who emerges the victor here?
Okay, I'm gonna say that Jimmy King is with Beth Phoenix, and that Nacho Libre is with Shayna Baszler.
Fair enough.
That just seems to fit better to me, and I don't know why. It just kind of does. So first of all, we would have to say, does the run-ins help any? And I'm going to say, actually, no, I don't think they necessarily do. Nacho Libre is going to run in and probably trip over his own feet and do nothing. And Jimmy King is probably like, I can see him like maybe hitting Baszler, and then she like no sells it. So I don't see either of them helping at all. So with that out of it, so that's moot. We got Baszler versus Phoenix. I love Beth Phoenix. Again, she came maybe a few years too early. You know, she was around today, especially with her size and her strength. I saw Beth Phoenix live once at a show, and even from where we were sitting, seeing her in the ring, she is a mammoth woman. She is huge. I don't think TV does her justice. Baszler, I think, is probably the better worker because of her background. I think she would employ a ground and pound strategy here. I think she's like, I need to get Beth off her feet. I can't let her use her strength against me. So I think Baszler, by having the better game plan, wins. But it's a good match.
Yeah, this would be a good match. And I definitely think that Beth Phoenix, with her size and strength, would be a formidable opponent for somebody like Shayna Baszler. But I think that Shayna Baszler's skill set is too ingrained for Beth Phoenix to be able to beat. So I definitely think Shayna retains here. So that means she continues her reign as our female champion. So our next match is a 6-pack challenge, Leonard, for the Nitty Gritty Galaxy All-Weight Unified Championship, so named, our great belt, which Leonard loves. And so I'm going to pick two names, and Leonard is going to pick two names, because our champion is the DX version of Shawn Michaels, and another person in this match is the rookie version of Kurt Angle. In our last show, we had Leonard and I created two dream matches of our own choosing, and it ended up being rookie Kurt Angle versus Kane, and Kurt Angle was the victor. So he moved on to this, and instead of it being a one-on-one, we decided to make it a 6-pack challenge. So it will be DX Shawn Michaels versus rookie Kurt Angle versus the TNA version of Rob Van Dam versus Shawn Michaels, the no hair version.
Okay.
versus
Yeah.
Leonard picks.
It gets weirder from there. Versus Matt Hardy, the angry at Lita and Edge version. So he's just mad at Lita and Edge. And versus the TNA version of Kurt Angle.
Oh man, that's
Not rigged, people. Not rigged.
You know what? I know right away who I'm picking, and I know that we're not going to agree on this.
Okay.
I just know it. I think that one of the best versions of Shawn Michaels is the DX version, which is why he's the champion. The rookie Kurt Angle is is green, but he obviously had a really good natural skill set with him. Mm-hmm. I don't think rookie Kurt Angle wins this. Now you have the TNA version of RVD, who, in my opinion, was past his prime. Yes. So I although they pushed RVD and TNA heavily, I think that he would be a good contender in this. The no hair version of Shawn Michaels doesn't even know what's going on. I just envision him aimlessly wandering around the ring, bumping. He hasn't done many matches.
Who that guy who kind of looks like him on the other side of the ring is? Who the hell is that guy?
Yeah. So, then we have Matt Hardy angry at Lita and Edge, and if he's angry at Lita and Edge, Lita and Edge, then I think his mind is preoccupied.
Right, he's not in this,
and he might do something on the outside to get himself distracted. Mm-hmm. So I think really this comes down to DX Shawn Michaels versus TNA Kurt Angle, which some people think that Kurt Angle had his best matches in TNA, and I think that there is a strong argument to be made for that. And I think that Kurt Angle becomes our new champion here.
Well, the TNA version of
TNA version of Kurt Angle, I think, can get the better of Shawn Michaels, but I think it's close though. So,
I was going to ask you who you thought would win between rookie Kurt Angle and TNA version Kurt Angle. You would obviously take TNA version Kurt Angle.
Absolutely.
Yes. I think the conception is that TNA version Kurt Angle was past his prime. That was certainly an angle that he had left WWF because of numerous injuries.
Yeah.
But yes, he had excellent matches. I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that he had excellent opponents. Like his matches with Samoa Joe were absolutely excellent. I agree with you. That's going to come down to TNA version of Kurt Angle and the DX Shawn Michaels. I think that's a really good match. But while you put Angle by a hair, I still have to stick with Shawn Michaels by a hair. Again, not only do you have probably the best version of Shawn Michaels as far as not only being a worker and a promo, but a backstage politicker. And I think it's going to take a lot. And we said this before. We said it was AWA Hogan. It's going to take a lot to get that belt off of him. So I know when this happens, and I don't think we don't have a tiebreaker on speed dial yet. We talked about that last time, and we didn't do that.
Right.
So I would say that the next show that we do, it should be a one-on-one between TNA version Kurt Angle and Shawn Michaels, and I think there should definitely be a stipulation involved of some sort. And I'm not sure what else we could do to maybe edge it. Maybe we give them managers or a run-in of some sort. But that would be mine. I think we differ here only slightly.
Yep.
So let's mix it up a little bit next time around and see what might happen.
All right. No, I think that sounds like a plan. And maybe we'll have 2 title matches because we got to incorporate heel Owen Hart into that card somehow.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah.
That's all right. We could have him face the winner or something.
Yeah. We could make it much like WrestleMania. Hey, you know what? We should do it like WrestleMania 10. Owen gets another opponent earlier in the night.
Yeah.
And then he faces the winner at the end of the night of Angle versus Michaels.
There you go.
That's what we're going to do.
There you go.
I hope you wrote that down because I'm not going to remember it.
That's all right. We'll remember it. And so, yeah, we have no winner here. But you know what? I think that would mean that DX version of Shawn Michaels, by default, still has the belt. So
yes, he would. So, whatever, it could be a time limit draw, it could be a DQ, a count out, even though it's a six-pack challenge.
Yeah, even though,
Something funky happens.
yeah,
Maybe it's a
the
dusty
lights go
finish.
out or something.
Let's say it's a dusty finish,
Yeah.
and he keeps the belt, leading to the needed rematch.
All right. So our next match is first here. We have done tag teams, but we have never done stables versus stables. So this is a one-on-one match. One stable versus another stable. And while Leonard is generating who those stables are, I will explain the match, which is a cluster fuck of chaos if there ever was
Okay.
one. So it is a triple war games match, which means, yes, you've heard of a triple cage match. This is a triple war games match with 2 rings on top of 2, with a cage around it. And then there's 2 more tiers of cages and platforms on top of that. So you have 3 tiers. Leonard, are you paying attention? Because this gets confusing.
Yeah. Please explain to me. I'm looking up to see who is in these individual stables.
Oh, okay. So while Leonard's doing that, I'll explain.
Do that. I'm listening.
I'll explain the rules here. So the goal of this match is that certain members of the stables start at the bottom and certain members of the stables start at the top. So the goal of this match is that somebody needs to be pinned on the bottom and somebody needs to get the trophy that's hanging from the ladder on top of the triple tiered War Games cages.
Okay.
So are you following that, Leonard?
Yes.
All right. So there's a ladder on top, and then the third tier, because this is Autumn Assault, Leonard, it's going to be on the third tier. We have leaves, trash cans, rakes, and leaf blowers in the third tier. So they can use those things. The second tier, we have a trampoline, chairs, and tables on the second tier. And on the bottom tier, we have barbed wire ropes, thumbtacks, light tubes, and canes.
Okay. So
you got all that?
I got it enough.
So somebody needs to get the trophy on top, and somebody needs to be pinned on the bottom. And
gotcha.
You tell us who it's going to be between.
All right. So how many people are in this?
Well, I mean, if it's like a stable of 3, then it would have to be 3 people from the other stable as well.
Okay. So here I'm gonna tell you who's in this. So stable 1 is the Nexus.
Okay.
So I'm gonna say that the members are Wade Barrett, David Atunga, Justin Gabriel, Heath Slater, Michael Tarver. So that's 5. So those are the first 5 listed here. So I'm gonna go with those 5 guys. They are facing the Oddities. So that would be Golga, Giant Silva, Luna Vachon, Kurgan, and you know what? The Insane Clown Posse. So that's 6. And then I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna add Skip Sheffield, aka Ryback. Ryback Skip Sheffield, correct?
Yep.
Yeah. So Skip Sheffield is added in there. So it's going to be 6 on 6.
All right. It's a 6-on-6 triple War Games match, Leonard. And yes. I know you've memorized what's in each tier. So
exactly. I know
so you got to tell me who you think would win this.
While I think the craziness of this, with all the weapons and all the multi-tiered cages, and you have to pin someone and grab a trophy and all this, the lunacy, I think, favors the Odysseys because they're friggin' crazy. At the same time, the only person that you have on the Oddities that could get to the third tier and capture the trophy is probably Luna Vachon.
Yeah, that's true.
Where with the Nexus, you've got a really nice mix of young talent, strong guys, speedy guys. I think that if this was just like, say, like a Monsters Ball cage match where it's just like weapons and crap in a cage, I would go with the Oddities. But given the multi-tiered nature of this, with the fact that you have to make a pinfall, you have to get a trophy, you have to climb up different cages, that favors the Nexus to me. because I think that you just say your quickest member here is probably Justin Gabriel. I send Gabriel up top. I use my bigger guys like Wade Barrett and David Otunga, on the bottom. I may put my middle guys, Tarver and Otunga, in the middle cage with the weapons. I think they're just more well balanced. I'm going with the Nexus.
Yeah, and are we in agreement that Heath Slater and Luna Vachon would be perfect opponents for each other?
Yes, I think that would be amazing. I think that would be I think that would actually be a good match, because I think that they would work with each other, and I think they would both sell for each other.
Yeah, and this was just a crazy daydream type thing that I thought up. I was like, if it's called Autumn Assault, we got to have one of the tiers be autumn themed. So this would just be a crazy match to watch, and who knows if it would be any good, similar to the uncensored Dungeon of Doom match where they tried to end Hulkamania back in the day. But anyway, I agree with you. I think Nexus would win here. The oddities are just too, like, you had Golgo, which was way past his prime, Earthquake.
Yeah.
Kurgan, like, I always thought that they could have done something else with Kurgan, but he was big and imposing. But I just don't think there's enough well-rounded people on the oddities to win this. And if you have the Insane Clown Posse, there's no way I'm going to pick you to win. So I would definitely have the Nexus win this crazy match.
Now, just for completion's sake, the Jackal was also listed, but he was a manager for the oddities, so that's why I didn't mention him. Sable was also involved in the oddities at one point, and I believe there was also I don't think it was one-off, it was maybe a brief. George Animal Steel was part of the oddities as well at one point.
I do vaguely remember that.
Just to mention that, and then talking the Nexus, if we had kept going, the only two other original members was Darren Young and Daniel Bryan. And then I don't remember this, but apparently John Cena was with him for a while. Looks like a very brief period.
I do not remember that.
No, and then Michael McGillicuddy, Husky Harris, Mason Ryan, and CM Punk. So, but I went with like the original members, and as listed on Wikipedia, I just went down from there. I think that was based on joining date. So, there you go.
Well, that means we have our main event, and it is the finals of our tag team tournament, which, if you recall, has Trevor Murdock and Lance Cade going against the Midnight Express of Stan Lane and Bobby Eaton. And we have a guest commissioner here who comes out. And Leonard, you look like you want to say something.
I want to say something here. I want you to generate the commissioner. I want to generate the team because I've already generated the team.
Oh, okay. I generated a team as well. And once you hear the team that I generated, you're going to regret. But that's all right.
Okay, we can use yours.
That's all right. You go with yours because the guest commissioner is Precious Paul Ellering.
Okay, that's a good one.
And he has announced that there will be a third team in the finals. So it'll be a triple threat tag team match. The Midnight Express versus Trevor, Murdock, and Lance Cade versus the team that Leonard has generated.
Okay. And then you're going to tell me yours?
Sure.
All right. I generated the Mega Powers.
Wow.
So that's Randy Savage and Hulk Hogan, circa 1988.
Well, you know what? Let's make it a fatal four-way then.
Go for it.
The team that I had generated randomly was the Legion of Doom.
With Paul Ellering as a commissioner. See, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah. So, yeah. This is about as easy as it gets. To me, anyway. Now, if we break it down to reality, somebody could argue on the contrary of what I'm going to say. But, as good as, like, the Midnight Express are, like, one of the greatest teams. But when they have some of these other teams against them, I just don't see it happening for them. Although I think they could give it the good old college try. Trevor Murdock and Lance Cade are lost in the wind here. And then you have the Legion of Doom, who are one of the most legendary tag teams. And then you have the Mega Powers, which incorporate two icons of wrestling in Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage. Now, if somebody wanted to be contrary, they could say, well, the Mega Powers were dysfunctional and this, that, and the other, and maybe they weren't as good a tag team as Midnight Express and Legion of Doom. I say pish tosh to that. So I can't see a universe where Hogan and Savage don't win this. I just can't.
For a minute there, I thought you were going to go with the LOD. If this was Midnight Express versus Cade and Murdock, that's an easy win for the Midnight Express.
Yeah.
Midnight Express have fought the Legion of Doom in the past. I would have to look up specific matches. Do they have wins over them? I would have to see. But it's conceivable. When you throw in the Mega Powers, and again, this is Savage and Hogan, and I do agree that you can argue that they were dysfunctional, they had issues, they weren't a team for that long, they were never a cohesive team. But you have two of the most iconic wrestlers in an iconic partnership that even casual fans would remember existed at this point. The Mega Powers versus Legion of Doom in like 88, that's a hell of a match. You sell the universe with that. Aliens are coming to Earth to watch LOD.
Absolutely. That would main event a WrestleMania easy.
Easy. Even though Vince hates tag matches.
Right.
You couldn't. It's a license to print money. So I'm kind of sorry it's not just them head to head, but we have these other teams involved. Midnight Express would be doing all the bumping. Midnight Express would make everybody else look like $1 billion here. So, but yeah, I got to agree with you.
Gets knocked out in the first 2 minutes.
Yes. Most likely he's going to have a concussion. The Hawk's going to drop him on his head. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So
with the Doomsday.
Yeah, I mean, if it had just been LOD, I would have went with LOD, even though I could have made an argument for the Midnight Express. But aren't you glad now that I wanted to shoehorn in there with the Mega Powers?
Absolutely.
I think our first ever tag team champions are the Mega Powers. That's amazing.
Yeah, no, I mean, it doesn't get better than that, and I don't know who would be able to beat them, but it'll be interesting to see what happens with our tag division in the future, which everybody's waiting on bated breath to find out. So I don't know when we're going to do another one, but we will definitely do another one soon because this was a big one. It was our 10th, and we have fun doing it, and it's gotten incredibly detailed now, Leonard. We've definitely gone down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, we've got like progressing storylines. I hope you're making notes because I don't remember any of these storylines.
I had to revisit the previous episode to remember what happened, but I did remember that we had stuff that was going to carry over. So I was like, okay, let me go and revisit that other episode just to see who we had carry over. And I'm glad I did because there were a lot of notes that I had to make.
Good that you did. Yeah. Just before we go off, I would like to say that I've got the gimmick match list here. And I just noticed at the end of the gimmick match list, I believe you put this in alphabetical order perhaps, it says, who does Vince Russo hate more match and who does Jim Cornette hate more match? What match is that? What's the gimmick there?
I don't even know. I added those today just to be funny, although some of the ones that you created are in there too. A triple Singapore Kane and throw 18 chairs at a guy match.
Is Octa Frank on the wrestler list?
I'm pretty sure he's in there somewhere. I forget if he's on the fictional list or the regular list, but he's in there.
Jimmy Swordfish and Octa Frank.
They would beat the Mega Powers, I think.
I think they would. It would be a squash and be embarrassing.
It would be a squash. Yeah. Oh man. We've gone off the rails.
I think we have. I think if anyone's still listening, they're regretting it by now.
All right. Well, let us know what you think of these matches and who you think would win. And we thank you very much for joining us. We will see you next week. My name is Chad. This is Leonard, and Alexa will see you out.